Theodore. He's a tugboat and a friendly tugboat too. A friendly tugboat too. Oh, Theodore likes to do the things that friendly tugboats do. Pushing and a pulling in the great big harbor, in the great big world is so much fun. So many brand new things to discover. Waking with the sun, gotta get the job done. Oh, Theodore and Emily, Bodak, Hank and George, and the harbor master too.
So the episode begins with Theodore and Fodak cruising along the shore when Fodak's computer makes a sound telling the tugs that they're near some underwater rocks. The rocks are marked with a special marker buoy named Bedford, and at times like this, there's only one thing that Theodore and Fodak love doing together.
Button Bedford, shouted Theodore. Now, Button Bedford is a special practice that Theodore and Fodak made up just for themselves. They would pretend that they were buttoning their tow ropes onto a big ship. Except with Bedford, the two liked to make it a race. Ready? Steady, shouted Theodore. Go, called Fodak, and the tugs were off. Theodore took the lead, but Fodak zoomed right past. Now Theodore picked up steam. Fodak seemed to be out of gas.
All right, this isn't the Sharon Miller era. Can we just see who won the race, please?
And the winning one was... Fodak! Hooray! Shouted Fodak. He was so excited about winning, he roared over and bumped Theodore. He bumped him so hard that it rattled Theodore right up to his smokestack.
It is at this time I ask that we have a moment of silence for Theodore's bumper.
What part in bumping makes it okay to do that to Theodore? Do you not see Theodore's expression on his face when he gets bumped? But even after all that, Fodak is oblivious of Theodore's reaction and bumps him again.
Even harder than before. But all Theodore did was slowly move away. Where are you going? Called Fodak. I don't want to practice with you anymore, answered Theodore quietly. Theodore floated away before Fodak could see him, because he was feeling very, very sad. This new bumping by Fodak was no fun. It was no fun at all.
Hence the big tear falling from his face. Man, my heart really breaks for Theodore whenever I see this. So anyway, after completely ditching Fodak, Theodore heads over to George seeking out some kind of help.
Should tugs ever bump each other? Ships don't like being bumped, said George. It could damage them. The pilot boats always say, don't bump. A good tug is a gentle tug. What if a tug bumps you? Asked Theodore. Who did that? Said George. No one, replied Theodore. George was puzzled by Theodore's strange question. And then he said, we have a big job tomorrow. We have to bring in a container ship. The dispatcher has ordered me and 2 other tugs. Who are the other tugs? Asked Theodore nervously. You and Fodak, replied George. Fodak. That was what Theodore was afraid of.
I don't blame Theodore at all for feeling the way he does. It sucks trying to avoid a friend like that. Not gaining the courage to tell them what's bothering you, that is. Anyway, the 3 tugs are busily moving the ship, but Theodore's thoughts are constantly wondering what will Fodak do afterwards. And it just gets worse from there.
Theodore! Watch out, Theodore! Cried Pearl. But it was too late. Poor Gloria. The back of the big ship bumped right into the dock.
And now a moment of silence for Gloria's back end. So after that disastrous performance, Pearl confronts Theodore back at the Great Ocean Dock.
That wasn't a very good job, Theodore, said Pearl sternly. I'm very sorry, Pearl, said Theodore. It won't happen again. Pearl told Theodore that he would need to do a better job tomorrow. Tomorrow? Repeated Theodore. Yes, Theodore, replied Pearl, when you take the ship back out of the harbor with George and Foda.
Theodore is very concerned when he finds out he has to take Gloria out again the next day, which makes me wonder how he feels after bumping Gloria accidentally.
With Theodore still worried, he heads over to his secret hiding place under an oil rig named Owen. Breaking his thoughts, Hank appears and Theodore suggests that they practice butt and Bedford together. Later, as Hank returns to the dock, Foduck is in for a surprise of his own.
Hank, have you seen Theodore? We were just buttoning Bedford. Well, Foduck couldn't believe his ears. Theodore wouldn't button Bedford with him the day before. Why did he do it with Hank now? Foduck floated over a little closer to George. I have a question, said Foduck. Not really a question, I was just kind of wondering. What if someone doesn't want to work with you and does your special practice with someone else? Does that mean you're not friends? Who did that? Said George. Oh, no one, replied Foduck. George was confused. It certainly seemed everyone had a lot of questions about no one lately.
I like this scene between George and Foduck. It gives a bit of comedy relief because Foduck basically repeats what Theodore asked earlier. It definitely does lighten the mood of the story.
Continuing on, Theodore is still hiding under Owen when something startles him appearing in the dark.
Hi, Theodore. Theodore nearly jumped out of his bumpers. It was Foduck. Theodore, are you still my friend? Well, Theodore didn't answer right away. Then Foduck gave him a little bump. Theodore backed slowly away from Foduck and said, Foduck, I'm not your friend anymore.
Well, that sucks. I can't imagine how Foduck is feeling after hearing that.
Jeez, Theo, out of all the things you could say, you chose that? That's harsh.
Well, Foduck was so sad and upset about not being Theodore's friend, he didn't know what to say either. So he just turned and floated silently for home. Theodore was every bit as sad and upset as Foduck, but all he could think about was what would happen tomorrow, when the two tugs would be working together. Would Foduck bump him again?
So the following day, after the tugs finish moving the ship, Theodore and Foduck drift along in silence when, once again, Foduck's computer makes that sound.
It's a good day to button Bedford, said Foduck hopefully. But I guess we can't since we're not friends anymore. Theodore was silent for a long time. Then he gathered his courage. Foduck, I just don't like it when you bump me. It hurts. Well, that made Foduck sad. I didn't mean to hurt you, Theodore, Foduck said. I only thought it was fun. Why didn't you tell me you didn't like it? I was afraid that if I told you how I really felt, you wouldn't be my friend anymore. From now on, Foduck said finally, let's promise to tell each other if we don't like something the other one is doing.
I'm glad they made up. It makes me happy how it nicely wraps up and they button Bedford again.
At least everything is alright now. And with that being said...
Ready? Steady? He shouted. Foduck knew just what to say next. Go! And the two friends raced toward Bedford with big happy smiles. And if you were to ask Bedford Bowie, that was the best buttoning he had ever had. Most of all, because the tugs took special care not to bump him either. After all, no one, not even marker buoys, like to be bumped.
And that concludes Bumper Buddies. Okay, Spencer, so what are your thoughts on this episode?
I think that this episode was great. I liked the shots of Theodore and Foduck racing in the beginning, and the music was great too. But it begs the question, why Foduck? I feel like George could have perfectly fit into the story, and Foduck being the one asked all the questions. I just feel like if Foduck is the safety tug, shouldn't he know not to bump Theodore?
Well, as luck would have it, like Theodore, I too was in a similar situation like this with a close friend of mine months back. Thank goodness we worked it out and we're on good terms, though. My biggest gripe with this episode, as you might have guessed, is Foduk's character. You would think he would have the common sense to know that what he's doing isn't very safe. I know in the end he learned his mistake, but come on, Foduk, this isn't you! You would think this is something George would do, but even he had common sense when it came to bumping. What does that tell you? Now, as for the music, you had the familiar Theodore tunes here and there. Graham Shaw, though, he really pulled at the heartstrings with those sad themes of his, particularly this one with Theodore floating away. However, this constant tune that played throughout most of the episode, personally, I felt like it became very repetitive and annoying. And one more minor nitpick I forgot to mention. I don't like the fact that Owen is just there. We have absolutely no idea who he is, and the fact that Theodore just automatically knows him and claims that he's his secret hiding place? I'm sorry, but I don't buy that. Anyway, even with these minor little nitpicks, the story itself isn't entirely ruined for me, as it still connects on a personal level, and I still really enjoy watching it. I honestly think everybody should take a look at this episode, and maybe see if you've experienced something like this. And if any of you ever do, my advice would be just to speak up, just like Theodore did. Because if you wait to the last minute, as we all saw, things will spiral out of control. Up next is Theodore and the Welcome.